Hi everyone, hope you're keeping well. Lots of drama in the world of politics in South Africa to a point where I almost don't want to open X. I almost don't want to know what's happening. It's too much and there's a lot of infighting. So meanwhile, every other regular South African is sitting completely shell-shocked at the fact that we have to pay an extra 0.5% VAT on top of the tariffs Trump's just given us. Not to say that us being kicked out of AGOA isn't off the table, and hopefully sanctions are individual, not country-based. There is so much interesting information in this document. It is the 30-year review of South Africa's democracy. It was published April 2024. And I just want to take you through chapters 1 to 6. It's really going to offer insights into how the ANC thinks and their ongoing failed attempts to achieving transformation. No matter how many reports, audits, SEOs, commissions, programs, and plans our government put together, the only common denominator is the ANC. And this audit report reflects their willingness to accept and celebrate bare minimum. So please don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate all of the support. Drop your comments, always interested in your opinion and insights. And let us jump straight into this document. So essentially, it just starts off by saying that we celebrate the progress made. We acknowledge the range of challenges with growing a democracy such as South Africa, which I completely agree with. And they say, which includes but is not limited to the economy performing below its full potential. And I agree with this. However, some of this is because of the ANC and their failure to hold people accountable and their failure to minimize corruption. To effectively address these challenges, we must invest in strengthening state capacity and fostering active citizenry and social partnerships to build greater determination towards developing South Africa. Strengthening state capacity is probably the last thing you want to do. You need to strengthen state competency, strengthening state efficiency, but capacity is the last thing our government should be worrying about. The report goes on to say, adopting the final constitution of the Republic of South Africa laid a foundation for an inclusive policy founded on human dignity, human rights, freedom, non-racialism, non-sexism, and the rule of law. On this particular point, our government has definitely failed us. So mega trends impacting development. So the pace of economic redress and empowerment. Policies for economic redress, such as affirmative action and the broad-based economic empowerment, have made substantial inroads, but the overall results remain inadequate. A trend shows government debt percent of GDP decreasing from 64% in 94 to 37% by 2014. And then increasing from 2015 onwards to 67% in 23. So this is due to the recurring bailouts of SOEs. Projections show this indicator stabilizing at 73.6% only in 25-26. And this is made without consideration of the tariffs that have just been put upon us and this increase in VAT. There have been general improvements in audit outcomes since 2010. Of the 418 auditees, 35% who achieved clean audits, only managed 16% of the 3.10 trillion expenditure budget. 39% received unqualified audit options. 48% of the budget was managed by 39% of the municipalities who have unqualified audit opinions. It is horrifying to know that 48% of the budget is being managed by state institutions with unqualified audit opinions. In 2016, the Public Service Commission published a report, Characteristics of the Public Service that should underpin a development state. This is very interesting. One of the significant characteristics of public services in developmental states is that they are merit-based. Let me read that for you again. One of the significant characteristics of public services in developmental states is that they are merit-based. Hence, recruitment into the service is based on entrance exams, qualifications, talent, and capability. It says so in the report, and our government continue to disregard the very obvious. Anti-corruption and ethics. Since 1994, public service has established an integrity system, including laws and mechanisms to combat corruption. However, ethics implementation is often perfunctory, focusing on institutional technical compliance rather than on the impact of flawed service delivery on citizens' experience. So the grey listing by the Financial Action Task Force in February 2023 suggests that certain deficiencies remain under increased monitoring by international peers with regards to combating certain types of corrupt activities, including money laundering, terrorist financing, and the financing of the proliferation of weapons and mass destruction. I almost feel like everything the ANC is doing goes against every principle of this document. Household access to electricity, piped water, and sanitation all stood above 80%. What I would like to point out here is, although we have access to electricity, the provision of formal housing and the access to electricity, piped water, and sanitation doesn't mean that there is electricity or water in the pipes or cables. So having access to an electrical connection is not the metric. The metric is, for what sustained time can I supply the population power month on month? Much success has been achieved in transforming society, the economy, and the country's global positioning. I'm not so sure on that. Much remains to be done to sustain and move a level higher. A constrained fiscal position in the current period limits the government's ability to pursue some of its policy priorities. Indecisiveness in the reforms of some SOEs and incidents of their governance failures weakens the achievement of development outcomes. We shouldn't be surprised, like action, consequence, action, consequence. Corruption, service delivery failures, and challenges to the financial sustainability of local governments or municipalities remains critical drivers of declining citizens' trust in government. Very interesting. Access to electricity. Like I said, you can have access to it. Whether or not it's there is another question. So a 2022 census reported that the main source of energy has increased from 58 to 94%. In the very next paragraph, it says, South Africa is currently facing a challenge of energy insecurity. largely attributed to inadequate electrical generation versus growing demand. That would be quite funny because you've only built 2 power stations since 1994. Municipal finance. According to the State of Local Government Assessment, the number of dysfunctional municipalities increased to 66 in 2022 from 64 reported in 2021. The number of medium-risk municipalities sits at 107. Low-risk municipalities is at 54. Regardless of the financial strain that our municipalities are under, there are over 40 grants available to municipalities for infrastructure and capacity building. Vacancy rates for municipal managers and chief financial officers sits at almost 25%. The premature departure of municipal managers, many of whom still need to serve their 5-year appointments, is a significant problem leading to administrative instability. Challenges are still widespread. Almost 3 decades later, the local government has evolved into a place marked by systematic dysfunction. The fiscal and infrastructure conditions of municipalities has raised serious concern. As of June 2022, according to South Africa's Auditor General, 29% of municipalities were on the brink of total operational collapse, even though they have over 40 grants available to them for municipal expansion and maintenance. We can only point this out to the government so many times. This is a year-on-year issue. It's being pointed out in every single audit report I've seen. And the only common denominator is the ANC. Listen to all of these plans, committees, and programs. Develop a comprehensive infrastructure plan, implementation of the IDP, strengthening implementation of the district development model, institutionalization of the integrated urban development framework, review the local government fiscal framework, better management and implementation of sector intervention and 154 support, greater involvement in local government sector 79 and 80 committees. There are so many committees and frameworks and plans. More policies. These include growth, employment and redistribution strategy, accelerated and shared growth initiative, new growth plan, national development plan. They want to increase employment to 24.7 million and halve unemployment by 2030. Reduce the official unemployment rate to 6%. They want to reduce the official unemployment rate to 6%. Just to take a quick look, between 1990 and 1999, our GDP growth was 1.4%. From 2000 to 2009, we hit 3.6. 2010 to 2019, 1.7. 2010 to 21, 1.3. Oh, there's so many names here. Listen to this sentence. Notably, reforms to support infrastructure development included a number of programs building on the policy approach of RDP, GEAR, and ASGISA, and the NDP. Wow. In some ways, you can understand why they don't read these documents. Contribution of the minibus taxi industry. With over 200,000 taxis on the road, the taxi industry forms the most crucial part of South Africa's public transport system. The industry represents one of the highest Black-owned businesses and generates approximately 40 billion annually and employs about 300,000 people. So that includes drivers, taxi marshals, and administrative support staff. The most common mode of transport for traveling to work is private car, 32.5%, taxis, 25%, and walking, 22.4%. So 22% of the population, even in areas with rail networks, choose to walk. This is not something that we should be celebrating at all. Also considering that the taxi industry does not pay tax. So research reaffirms that South Africa requires a gross domestic product growth rate of at least 5.4% to achieve most of its developmental priorities. The long-term GDP growth averaged 2.4. Our education system is one of the biggest failures. So since 1996, we have only managed to achieve a 5% increase in post-school qualifications. Census data shows the country has only improved by 3% of persons aged 5 to 24 years attending an educational institution. Bravo, ANC, bravo. So here's a good look as to whether our effort into basic education is making any progress. So only 19% of our country has international reading literacy studies capacity. The brown bar is trends in international mathematics and science studies. In 2015, we had 39%, dropping to 37% in 2019. When you look at these particular statistics, we need to relate that back to the ongoing reporting of lack of skills and competencies in government institutions. But until you fix your education, you cannot fix skills and competencies in the working world. Just taking a look at all this data, and I've looked through numerous other audit reports, municipality, provincial, departmental, I've looked at them all. This is a rehash of all the problems that have been put into all the reports over and over again. I re-emphasize, the only common denominator in this entire situation is the ANC. They are pushing a system that is being resisted by the majority of the people, claiming that they will achieve 5.4% economic growth. We're currently sitting at 0.6. The fact is the ANC is not listening to the advice. They're pushing an agenda that is not beneficial to the country, but only beneficial to the ANC. And I'm sure we can all stand in confidence and give the government a big fat F for fail. Your 30-year review is a big failure. I'll give them a DF, dismal failure. You should be ashamed of yourself, ANC. You're failing so many beautiful, innovative, fantastic people. This country could be a roaring success. Thanks, ANC. You've done it again. Guys, if you enjoyed my video, thank you so much. I'd really appreciate a subscribe and a like. Don't forget to share. I really appreciate all the support that you guys have given me, and I hope you have a great weekend. Over and out.